Kanjapi Hari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodandana Brajajana Randana Yashodandana Brajajana Randana Jamuna Deva Balachari Jamuna Deva Balachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Om Vishnupada Paramahansa Parivajakacarya Sutta Sadashi Śrīmad Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto A, Chapter 16, verses 55 and 56. Payovrata, process of worship. Dakshiram Guru Vedadya Ritvigvyascha Yatarhata Anadye Nashva Pakamsha Prinayat Samupakatan. One should satisfy the spiritual master and the assistant priests by giving them cloth, ornaments, cows, and also some monetary contribution. And by distributing prasad, one should satisfy everyone assembled, including even the lowest of men, the chandalas, eaters of dog flesh. Report. In the Vedic system, prasad is distributed, as recommended here, without discrimination as to who may take the prasad. Regardless of whether one be a Brahmana, Shudra, Vaishya, Kshatriya, or even the lowest of men, a Chandala, he should be welcome to accept prasad. However, when the Chandalas, lower class or poorer class, are taking prasad, this does not mean that they have become Narayan or Vishnu. Narayan is situated in everyone's heart, but This does not mean Narayan is a Chandala or a poor man. Mayavad philosophy accepting a poor man as Narayan is the most envious and atheistic movement in Vedic culture. This mentality should be completely given up. Everyone should be given the opportunity to take Prasad. But this does not mean that everyone has the right to become Narayan. The text 56. Book Davatsu cha sarveshu dinanta kipanadishu Vishnostapridanam vidvan punjita sahabantupi. One should distribute Vishnu Prasad to everyone, including the poor man, the blind man, the non-devotee, and the non-Brahmana, knowing that Lord Vishnu is very pleased when everyone is sumptuously fed with Vishnu Prasad. The performer of yajna should then take Prasad with his friends and relatives. Mukam karati vachalam vangam lankate girim yakipantam vande sikurantinatavinam Om Gyana Timirandasya Gyananjara Shalakaya Chakshu Militam Yena Tasamai Shri Gurave Namaha. So, taking prasadam is one of the two functions of the tongue. There are two functions. One is to take prasadam, different rasas, different tastes in the prasadam. And the second function, and this is actually taken from a purport in 11th canto, is to enjoy different rasas of taste of relationship with Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna and reading Bhagavatam. So we'll share with you today about these different rasas. The first, we have two choices besides these. We can use our tongue to elevate ourselves or to degrade ourselves. We can use for material sense gratification or for the pleasure of Krishna's senses, which will please our senses to taste. So we have the choice to taste material rasa or spiritual rasa. So first, let's understand why we should offer our food to Krishna. Why should we have prasad? Krishna's not hungry. Krishna's not poor. He doesn't need our opulence, our food. He's not impressed with our renunciation. In the old days, when Prabhupada was here, the Sankirtan devotees used to travel for months, sleeping in the van, taking showers just at the gas station. They would get a hose, a pipe, and shower themselves. And when they would go into the supermarket, they would offer the whole supermarket to Krishna, except for meat, fish, and eggs. And then they would just take anything, and it was already prasad. But we don't advise you should do that. That is just something they did because they were in a hurry. But we want to take our time. We have time. We have a place. We have a house. They didn't have a house. They were living in the van. So what can you expect? But anyway, yeah, they were offering their food. So there's no obstacle to offering food. So the devotee, he understands everything belongs to Krishna. Not only to Krishna, but to Krishna's devotees. Prithu Maharaj, after hearing, the Kumaras instructed him, and after hearing from the Kumaras, he wanted to offer something, some dakshina. He said, it's my duty to offer you something, but all I possess are remnants of food taken by you, taken by saintly persons. So what can I give you? It's all your mercy. It's all your prasad. What can I give you? And so out of love, we give whatever we have to Krishna. In Bhagavad Gita, it talks about offering your food. In chapter 3, verse 13, it says in the purport, the santas, being always in a compact of love with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, or Mukunda, or Krishna, cannot accept anything without first offering it to the Supreme Person. Therefore, such devotees always perform yajnas in different modes of devotional service, like Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Archanam. And these performances of yajnas keep them always aloof from all kinds of contamination, of sinful association in the material world. So an example is Sudama Vipra. He wanted to offer something to Krishna. He didn't have much. He had to go begging to his neighbor. He didn't have anything in his house. So he had a little chipped rice. He offered it to Krishna. And he got an opulent palace. Krishna reciprocated with him. Prabhupada used to say, what can we give with our 2 hands to Krishna? And what can Krishna give us with his 10 hands? He has 10 hands, so he will give us much more than we ever give him. And so Bhagavatam 10th canto, 22nd chapter. Krishna is glorifying the trees, and then how the trees are so magnificent. They're giving everything, giving shade, giving food, giving shelter. And then Krishna speaks a verse, Etavaj eva janma safalyam dehinam iha dehishu pranarartatiya vacha shaya acharanam sada. Every living entity should serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead by his prana, life, artha, wealth, intelligence, dhya, and words, vacha. And so Prabhupada explained in his lecture what this means. You should give your life to Krishna. But you may think, well, that's too much. How can I give my life to Krishna? All right, that's all right. If you can't give your life, prana, give artha, give some money, become a life member, give donations to the temple. But if you don't, you think, well, I don't have enough money. Okay, you can give your intelligence. You can give some ideas how to plan programs, how to organize things. But if you think, well, I'm not so intelligent, there's one more thing you can give, and that's your words, vacha. You can chant, you can read, you can preach, you can give a book to somebody. So Krishna is everywhere. And the preacher, he sees all living entities. He sees everything as part of Krishna. And not only everything, but all living entities part of Krishna. But they're not offering themselves in service. So devotee preaches to engage everyone in Krishna's service. He wants to offer all beings to Krishna. So Prabhupada had that vision. He engaged all of us, rich and poor. Some of us were hippies, we had nothing to give, and others had something. Like Jayananda, he had his savings. He gave Prabhupada his savings to print Nectar of Devotion. And later on, when he was dying of cancer, his parents gave him money to go get care by the doctors, and he gave all that money for Rath Yatra. So his picture's on the Rath Yatra card. Brahmananda gave his life savings, $5,000, and he gave the check to Prabhupada, and he asked Prabhupada, so can I have those 3-volume set of Bhagavatam Prabhupada brought over on the boat, first canto. And Prabhupada said, that will be extra. And so Prabhupada, and he said, now he was a brahmachari, so to get that $16 was harder than getting the $5,000 he gave. So Prabhupada was always challenging us and engaging us. And Brahmananda and Gargamuni, they were coming from millionaire family. They had a house of 20 rooms before they joined. And then they gave up everything to sleep on the floor in Calcutta Temple. Gargamuni was sleeping on the floor. So we should offer out of love to Krishna, and we should offer out of friendship to Krishna. Prabhupada was lecturing in the very early days of New York, and he quoted one verse, Dadati patigrinati guhyam akati prichati punkte bhojati chaiva sadviham piti lakshanam. There are 6 loving exchanges: offering gifts, accepting gifts, revealing one's mind in confidence, inquiring confidentially, accepting prasad, and offering prasad are 6 symptoms of love shared by devotees. 1966, very early in Bhagavad Gita lecture on 9th chapter, Prabhupada was explaining we have to make friendship with Krishna. It's not just with devotees, also with Krishna. You have to, if you want to see a great person, you have to give him some present. So we want to go to Krishna Loka, we have to prepare ourselves how to love Krishna. And we have to do the 6 loving exchanges with Krishna. And so he explained also how to love Krishna in another lecture later on. You have to practice. First, you get up early. You don't like to, you think, oh, I'll get up early to satisfy Krishna. So this is the beginning. Then, I have to chant 16 rounds on my beads. Prabhupada said, you may be lazy. You may not want to do it. But if you want to love Krishna, you must do it. In the beginning, You have to learn how to love Krishna. But when you come to the state of love of God, there's no question, oh, I have to. You want to. You spontaneously follow it. Just like if you ever been to Jaipur, if you wake up at 4 in the morning and you want to go to Mangalarti, you'll hear people running in the street shouting, Govinda, Govinda, Govinda. And they're so enthusiastic. They really love Krishna. There's 1,000 people at Mangalarti in Jaipur, the Radha Govinda deities. So this is spontaneous. This is love of Krishna. And so they have come to that. So we have to also disclose our mind to Krishna. That's when we go up, we can go up in front of the deities and pray to them and say, okay, and there's different ways to do that. We can go up and tell them, oh, there's one way is to beg forgiveness. Oh, this is what I did. Please forgive me. Please forgive me. But then we don't do it again. Don't do it again. So, and when I first joined in 1970 in Boston, we used to go up in front of the deities, every one of us, one at a time, 60 devotees, and we would reveal our mind. We would say, okay, this week I did this service for you, and I had this problem. Please help me, or please give me your blessing. Oh, we used to do that in the old days, the very old days, 50 years ago. But you can still do that now, and it's very powerful. Now, our mood is, Prabhupada's talking about the Mayavadis, the impersonalists. Their idea is, I'm God. So I just have a little bit of work to do and I'll become God. I just forgot. Somehow I forgot I'm God. And God doesn't forget. But anyway, so our devotee mentality is, I'm servant of God and I'll become one in interest with God. So in London, Srila Prabhupada arrived at the airport, and many reporters were there to meet him. And so the first question, and because what the reporters saw, as soon as Prabhupada came, the devotees hit the floor, everyone down. And the reporter was kind of, astonished what's going on here. So first question to Prabhupada was, do you think you are God? And Prabhupada answered, he said, the spiritual master should be given as much respect as is given to God. But if he thinks he's God, then he's a dog. And so, very perfect, always perfectly answering the reporters. And that was a very good answer. That Prabhupada was humble. Again, in Bhagavad Gita, purport in chapter 2, it talks about Prasadam. An impersonalist, being impersonal, cannot eat. So they follow strict rules. Whereas an impersonalist tries to avoid good eatables, a devotee knows Krishna is the supreme enjoyer and he eats all that is offered to him in devotion. So we enjoy nice prasadam offered to Krishna. Now, if you were to pick up the lotus feet of Radharani, on her lotus feet there is a mark, an altar, sacrificial altar. And one of the meanings of that mark is that the form of this universe is Krishna. So everything here is part of the universal form of Krishna. Krishna's universal form is the body of the universal form. And when you offer something, that's Radharani. The offering is Radharani, the form of Radha. Radha's form is when we offer. And the perfect union, when we offer something to Krishna, then the mark of the sacrificial altar on Radha's lotus feet. So the process is devotional service, and Radharani is in charge of that. Whatever ingredient we offer is from Krishna's body, the process is Radha. When I was in Calcutta, Pujari, then Srila Prabhupada said that all this deity worship is under the direction of Srimati Radharani. And in Nectar of Devotion, in the first chapter, Prabhupada says that to perform devotional service means to follow in the footsteps of Radharani. And devotees in Vrindavan put themselves under the care of Radharani in order to achieve perfection in their devotional service. It's not an activity of the material world. It's under the control of Radharani. So, and this is in Prabhupada quotes Bhagavad Gita, Mahatmas take shelter of Daivi Prakriti, and that's Radharani. That's what he says in Nectar of Devotion. So how to offer your mind. The sages of Naimisharanya had this realization, and it's described in 1st Canto, 18th chapter, that we've just begun the performance of this fruitive activity, sacrificial fire, without certainty of its result due to the many imperfections in our action. Our bodies have become black from the smoke, but we are factually pleased by the nectar of the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead Govinda, which you are distributing. So Prabhupada, now I would like, it's good to hear how Prabhupada applied rules, Prasadam rules. So different devotees would ask Prabhupada about Prasadam. Nanda Kumar said, he was saying his memories. There was a time I was feeling physically challenged. Ghee and sugar and some of the general fare seemed too heavy for me and would make me sleep or get sick. When I ate light foods, I would be healthy. Devotees told me, that's Maya. If you take prasadam, Krishna will bless you. Whatever you get is just a tiny fragment of your karma. Devotees eat prasadam and don't worry about health food. That was philosophically sound, but practically speaking, if I ate a light diet, I served better and had a clearer mind. I asked, Prabhupada, I understand the principle of accepting Krishna's mercy by taking prasadam, but when I eat light, it's easier. And when I eat heavy, it's difficult. What should I do? So Prabhupada said, if you're Rupa Goswami, you should just take prasadam. But if you're a neophyte, which all of you are, you have to decide what's good for your devotional service and what is not good for your devotional service. Well, that was Prabhupada. He gave the choice to us. He didn't say this is good, this is bad. He let us use our intelligence. In Montreal, there was another devotee, Dayal and Nitai. Now, Prabhupada would give different answers to different people. So that was one answer. So there was a devotee, Brahmanandas, describing Dayal Nitai, who was a yogi. He was into health. He strongly criticized our diet, white rice, white sugar, butter. And Prabhupada was in Montreal. I used to walk with him to his apartment. One day, Dayal Nitai was complaining to Prabhupada how our food was not healthy and how we're all going to get sick. And Prabhupada stopped walking and said, you see Brahmananda here? He's been eating this food for so long. Does he look sick? There's a different answer. Different answer. So Shuddhakirti, when they were traveling in London, Bhaktivedanta Manor, different Indians would invite them for prasadam, life members, for a feast. And oftentimes it was at night. And the devotees were very eager to get the prasadam, as well as Prabhupada's association. And sometimes he would give a short lecture. So one time, and Prabhupada did say, prasad, devotees should get sumptuous prasadam. Simple, but sumptuous. If the prasadam is tasty, you can go on eating even if you're not hungry. And if it's not tasty, you'll immediately lose your appetite. Prasadam must be very nice. So at the feast, there was halava, sweet rice, puris, and many other preparations. Shuddhakirti said, I watched Srila Prabhupada eat. It was always special. Normally, he took prasadam alone in his room. I cannot do him justice trying to describe the heavenly way he moved his fingers, hands, and mouth as he ate prasadam. But even I could see he was honoring Krishna prasadam. We all ate to our full satisfaction. When we returned to the manor, Prabhupada rang his bell. I went to his room and offered obeisances. So everyone has enjoyed prasadam? He asked, smiling. And Shuddhakirti said, well, actually, Prabhupada, some of the devotees are not feeling well. They're saying everything was fried in oil instead of ghee. Prabhupada said, well, what do you expect? I was watching them and I saw Pradyumna ate so many puris. Another devotee ate so much vegetable. I was amazed. I noticed Prabhupada eating. I had no idea he had observed so much. He simultaneously did so many things without ever appearing to do anything at all. However, I had an observation of my own to offer. Yeah, Srila Prabhupada, I agree, but I also don't feel well, and I didn't eat very much. Prabhupada said, yes, I know this. You didn't eat so much, but I remember you ate 4 puris. Yes, Prabhupada, I guess I did. He said, I answered in disbelief. I offered obeisance and left the room, still trying to figure out how he knew all this. He knew more about what I ate than I did. It was remarkable to me how he was so aware of everything that was going on around him at a simple function. On Venezuela Airlines, Prabhupada was traveling with Srila Paramahansa Nitai from Mexico City to Caracas. Srila said, I hadn't prepared any prasadam for the flight, but just before we boarded the plane, a Vaishnava Indian lady handed me a bag filled with puffed rice that she had made for the trip. All right, let's take prasadam, Srila Prabhupada said shortly after takeoff. Do you want what is being served on the plane, I asked. No, he said. We have our prasadam, that's all right. I didn't ask for a plate. I simply put the tray table down, unwrapped the aluminum foil, so one lady gave some puffed rice. And he immediately started to eat. Although it was a small portion, he only ate half of it. Without looking at me, he said, all right, now you take. That was the nectar for which you're always anxious. Srila Prabhupada always took great care of his entourage. This quality was one of many which I always appreciated. On this flight, Prabhupada sat by the window. I was in the middle, next to Prabhupada, and Paramahansa was in the aisle. I took the puffed rice and split it down in the middle, keeping half for myself and the rest to Paramahansa. We were happily eating Prabhupada's remnants when a young stewardess who was walking down the aisle looked at us and spontaneously reached past Paramahansa, placed her hand in my Mahaprasadam. Grabbing a fistful, she tossed it into her mouth. Oh, this is very good, she exclaimed. What is this? It's puffed rice, I said, trying to keep my composure. It's made from rice. She probably looked at her with a broad smile. Oh, this is very good, she said. I'm glad you like it. Very good, she said. Still a little shocked about what she had done. Are you having anything else to eat? She asked. Well, we're vegetarian. Unless there's some fruit, we can't have anything. She said, I will go to the first class section and get you a basket of fruit. She returned with the fruit and knives and asked, anything else? Turning to Prabhupada, I asked, Prabhupada, would you like some milk? Yes, hot milk, he said. Okay, I told her, we will have some hot milk. She went to first class and came back with hot milk. Sometimes, Srila is saying, devotees would offer me money to get a taste of Prabhupada's remnants. I never took it. They begged for the opportunity to render personal service. Here was this flight attendant boldly going where no one had ever gone before, by the mercy of Krishna and his pure devotees. So what happened to this lady? 10 years later, devotees were going in the Amazon, door to door in some village. And they went in they opened one door and their lady opened and there's all these pictures of Krishna. And she had Prabhupada's books and she said, yes, I was that stewardess who took the Prasad of Srila Prabhupada. And I became a devotee. Very powerful, the remnants of a pure devotee. What is the power of prasadam? And here's another story from Florida, actually, 1984. There was a traveling book distribution party from Florida, and they parked at the state fairgrounds in Tampa, Florida. They were distributing books at the state fairgrounds, and they parked at a Days Inn parking lot for the night. And they were all there were 5 brahmacharis fast asleep when we heard over a megaphone, all right, and there, come out slowly with your hands raised. I looked out the window, surprised to see the van surrounded by 10 police cars, more than a dozen officers with their guns drawn. We emerged from the van, squinting from the bright flashlights burning our eyes. The officers began to frisk each of us, though we were dressed only in gumshas. What are you doing here? The officer in charge demanded. We are distributing love of God in the form of books, I explained. Prove it. I opened the van doors, thinking this to perhaps be a dream. I reached into one of the boxes, pulled out a Bhagavad Gita, and handed it to the officer in charge. He intently inspected the book, then me, then the book, until finally he broke the silence, declaring, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. I was taken aback, as were his gun-toting subordinates. At this point, I was convinced this was all a dream. The officer in charge proudly explained, I used to go to the University of Florida and regularly ate the Krishna lunch. You practically put me through college. I even stayed 2 days at the temple. Turning to his associates, he pronounced, these are great books and you should all buy one. Of the 20 cops, I think 90% of them took books. We made almost $200. Our new friend then apologized for the abrupt entry, telling us earlier that night a gun store had been robbed and the description of the getaway vehicle exactly matched our van. I doubt we got back to sleep that night after one of the most bizarre experiences of my life. But thanks to Prasadam distribution, it turned into a great Sankirtan story. And that's not the only, there's so many stories like that about people who got Prasadam and became big people and helped the devotees later on. People who took Prasad at University of Florida. And this was just one. See the power of Prasadam. And Prabhupada in one lecture also, let me see if I have, no, I don't have the reference. He said, we can see Krishna by tasting Prasadam. Did you know that you can see Krishna by tasting Prasadam? So if you can't see God, you can see different ways. Krishna says, Rasoham apsukonteya prabhasmi shashi shuryayo. I am the taste of water. I am the light of the sun and the moon. So we have so many senses. We can see God. You want to see God with the eyes, begin with your tongue. This is another sense. Just like if there's some nice food, we say, oh, let me see it. Let me see. Not by the eyes. Halwa, if there's halwa, let me see means let me taste. So first of all, taste God. We got to taste Krishna, Prabhupada is telling us. 2 ways. So this is the first way is with Prasadam. And the second way now I'll talk about is we're tasting the rasas of Prasad. We can taste the rasas of relationship with Krishna by chanting and hearing. There is a purport from 11.8.20. It's very interesting purport. By accepting the remnants of food after the Lord, one gradually purifies the heart. Okay, we talked about Prasadam. Now, in this connection, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati states, the business of the tongue is to gratify itself with varieties of flavor, but by wandering in the 12 holy forests of Rajamandala, Vrindavan, one can be free from the 12 flavors of material sense gratification. So the 5 principal divisions of relationships are neutral, servitude, friendship, parental, and conjugal love. Subordinate are humor, astonishment, chivalry, compassion, anger, dread, and ghastliness. Originally, these 12 rasas are exchanged between the Supreme Lord and living entity in the spiritual world. By wandering in the 12 forests of Vrindavan, one can re-spiritualize the 12 flavors of personal existence. One will become a liberated soul. If one artificially tries to give up sense gratification, especially that of the tongue, the attempt will be a failure. And in fact, one's desire for sense gratification will increase as a result of artificial deprivation. Only by experiencing real spiritual pleasure, relationship with Krishna, can one give up material desires. So that's the verse. Atashi Kṛṣṇa madi navavegrayam Indiyai Sevaya mukhi jivado sayam eva suratida. So we cannot approach Krishna with material senses, but by service of the tongue, Krishna will reveal himself to us. So we have to serve Krishna with our tongue. And now the second way we're talking about here, chanting and reading. Bhagavatam, is rasa. If you read the 3rd verse of Bhagavatam, the 3rd verse says, Nigama kapachador galitam phalam, Shukamokadam ritadavasam mitam, Pibata Bhagavatam rasam alayam, Muhara sika bhuvibhavakaha. At ripened fruit of the tree of Vedic knowledge. So Gurudas once asked Srila Prabhupada, what are the desired trees in Goloka are like? So Prabhupada answered, the fruits have no seed or skin. And when you finish eating a fruit and the sweet taste still in your mouth, another fruit appears in your hand if you so desire, again and again until you are completely satisfied. Bhagavatam is so sweet, you can relish one part and another part will come. And Shukadev has made it more sweet by tasting it and has become juice, rasa. Pibata Bhagavatam rasa. We have to taste Bhagavatam, drink Bhagavatam. And Prabhupada has made it even sweeter by tasting it and digesting it for us. So it's become rasa or juice we can easily drink. And Bhagavatam glorifies those who are hearing. Ayur harati vaipunsam udyanastantayana sa dasarte akshano nita utama shloka vartaya. that both by rising and setting, the sun decreases duration of life of everyone, except one who uses the time by discussing topics of the all-good personality of Godhead. That's second canto, chapter 3. First canto, chapter 16. Ho niloke pieta hari lilamrita vacha. As long as Yamaraj, who causes everyone's death, is present here, no one shall meet with death. The great sages have invited the controller of death, Yamaraj, representative of the Lord. Living beings who are under his grip should take advantage by hearing the deathless nectar in the form of this narration of the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. Ahoni loke pieta. Drink, human beings, drink. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. So Yamaraj is not to be feared by the devotees. Prabhupada said in the lecture, his duty is to see these rascals who have forgotten Krishna or God and come here to enjoy material sense gratification. They must be punished. So therefore we drink Bhagavatam and Yamaraj will not touch us, at least while we're drinking Bhagavatam. Well, he won't touch us also. We have neck beads on, we're chanting Hare Krishna. He told his messengers only bring those who are not chanting. So you may say, well, devotee also dies, everybody dies, but the death is not the same as the non-devotee. Devotee is peaceful, smiling. Non-devotees are afraid and anxiety, because at the time of death, for those who do not worship Krishna, it's like a cat holding a rat in her mouth. How is the rat feeling? The rat is horrified, terrified. And for the devotee, death is like a mother cat holding the kitten in her mouth. And she's feeling safe. Yes, I'm feeling good. Krishna's taking me. I might feel his teeth a little bit, but that's okay. I know where he's taking me. When the kitten goes the wrong direction, then the mother cat catches the kitten and puts her in the right direction, takes her in the right place. So time of death, Krishna takes us with maybe in his teeth, but still we know where we're going. We're going back to home, back to Godhead. So therefore we must always hear and chant Kirtanaya Sadahari, which is chant Hare Krishna, and Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, always serve Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. So I'll stop here and try to relish the two different kinds of rasas that the tongue relishes, the rasa of food, prasadam, and the rasa of chanting and hearing. And we're meant to taste Krishna in our chanting also. We're meant to taste Krishna. Okay, so we can stop here. Any questions or comments at this point? Yes, Bhadra Prabhu has his hand up. Yeah. I can't see everybody. So you're going to have to go on chat and tell Shiva Vilas or somebody. Yeah. Okay, what's your question?
I don't have a question, but
okay.
I have a comment. We
Okay.
had the mayor of Jacksonville Beach, the Jacksonville Beach, and he was so favorable when we started the theatre there.
Right.
And I was wondering, how is that? But then he told me that he was actually going to UF at Gainesville, and
yeah.
he was having the Prasadam.
Wow.
And he trusted me so much that every year he would come on the stage. And one time he just gave me the key of the Jacksonville Beach. Here is a key, he said.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. Yes, there are many, many stories like that. So many stories. I know many stories about those who graduated from UF and took Krishna lunch and became big people and really helped the devotees.
Oh, of course, he left his body now, but he was very favorable.
That's too bad.
And every year he would come. Every year he would come to attend.
Wow. Yeah, he will surely get a benefit of that for his next life.
I had a few times went to his home and brought Prasadam, and we had a good chat with him. Thank you.
Wow, nice. Okay, any other questions?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Okay.
Thank you so much for the wonderful class and the wonderful nectar of your experience with Prabhupada and the other devotees. Mataji, you mentioned the rasas of relationships. So I was just, we don't hear the other relationship like humor, ghastliness, and anger. So how can we understand that, and can we really serve Krishna with those rasas?
Okay. How can we understand? If you want to understand more about those indirect relationships, it's all described in Nectar of Devotion, all the different relationships. Like what, for example, fear was Kamsa and Shishupala, and Bhishma Dev was chivalry. He was fighting with Krishna, so he was in the chivalry ras. But these 7 indirect relationships are subordinate to the 5. So everybody will be in one of the 5, and sometimes they will have the other ones too mixed in with the other 5. So you may be angry, even Radharani gets angry. So that can be mixed in with her conjugal rasa. I believe that Bhishma Dev was in the rasa of it's either parental or servitude, because he was elderly to Krishna, and that was mixed with chivalry. It looks more like servitude because at the end, when Krishna, well, not at the end, but when Krishna came to rushed at him with the chariot wheel, he said, "Okay, you can kill me or save me as you like. You can protect me." It's more like a servant who prays like that, not like a parent, not like paternal. He was more in the
Hello?
servant. Yes. Who's that? Oh, okay, mistake maybe. Yeah, so if you really want a good explanation, just read Nectar of Devotion. It's in the back somewhere, all about the indirect relationships.
Thank you very much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji, for such wonderful class and sharing so many wonderful pastimes also of Srila Prabhupada and Prabhupada's disciples. This is really amazing to hear about the glories of Prasadam.
Yes,
it's interesting.
We don't know. We may eat it every day, but we don't understand how powerful it is.
Absolutely. And something is really special with puffed rice. Like one day my wife made some puffed rice offered to Krishna, and then I took it to office for lunch. And then my manager came and was saying, "Wow, this room smells so fragrant. What were you eating?"
Oh, really?
Yes. He said that. And he said, well, like I had no more for that day, but the next day I said, "I'll bring it for you." And then I brought some puffed rice for him. And he said, "Well, my kids were so frantic about it, they didn't allow me to eat one single, puffed rice." So he took his home, and then he shared with his colleague. Now he also wants puffed rice, and now everyone is asking me for puffed rice.
Just by Prasadam, you're preaching.
So it's amazing.
Yeah, I can give you one really nice story about a 2-year-old boy in Juhu, Bombay, who was living in some apartment building. And he used to go visit the neighbors who were not devotees. And the neighbors knew that he was vegetarian, so they would always give him something. He would always beg for some food. "Can you give me a roti? Can you give me this?" And they would, "Oh, okay. We have to give something vegetarian to this child." And eventually, after some time, they became vegetarian, after some time, they started chanting. And after some time, they became devotees just by Prasadam, with this little 2-year-old boy was preaching. So everybody can preach. If he can preach, you can preach. And then after he finished that whole apartment building, he started with another section. He's a preacher from birth.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it's Prasadam. Yeah, don't be surprised what will happen to your colleagues at work.
I think that's Shah Mataji has a question. Please, Mataji, you can ask.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, this is Nityam. I had a question, Mataji. Thank you first for very much for the lecture. It was very nice. And it was very nice hearing about Prabhupada's pastimes. The question is, Mataji, what should be our consciousness while honoring Prasad?
That you are a servant. I am a servant. This is Krishna's mercy, Krishna's great mercy, and be grateful. Be very grateful. Thank you, Krishna, for allowing me to have your remnants. Be very grateful.
And Mataji, what can we talk like? Should we talk or what talk about Krishna only, or can we talk regular mundane things also, or in terms of?
Well, you can talk. It's your choice, and you can just try both of them and see the difference. I'm not going to tell you one or the other. But in the old days, we used to all eat together, in the temple, and somebody would always be reading from Bhagavatam or Chaitanya Charitamrita or something. They wouldn't allow us to talk, but you can't be so strict, especially in a family. You can't be so strict. So yeah, you can try an experiment, like one day a week have Krishna Katha, and then the rest of the week not, and then just like something like you can try. Don't be heavy on the rules and regulations in the family, because then your mind will rebel. Okay, any other question?
Thank you so much. Mataji, I want to tell about one special devotee here. His name is Bankim. If you could please turn on your video, Bankim Prabhu. He and his wife, they distribute really lots and lots of prasadam. On Janmashtami, they distribute prasadam to 170 families on the day of
Wow,
Janmashtami.
that's a lot of prasadam in their own kitchen.
In their own kitchen.
Wow.
Every week he's distributing
My
prasadam
God.
to at least 10 families. And he goes all the way from his home to their home, and he'll distribute prasad. He loves distributing prasad. And he'll not just make like one item. Every time you go, he'll make at least 10 items.
Oh, no.
So
wow,
really,
that's
it's extraordinary.
amazing.
I mean, it's hard to
How
believe.
can that be?
Yes,
Yeah,
it's hard to believe. Yes,
hard to believe.
but he does it. He does it amazingly.
Wow.
Are you there?
Yeah,
Bankim
he's
Prabhu?
empowered. He's empowered.
Turn on your video
Empowered
for a
by
couple of
Krishna.
minutes.
He should move. He should move to a large
I'm in
one.
there, but I'm in a working place.
Jai Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Janamatnam.
Jai. Thank you so much. Prabhupada will be so pleased with you. Prabhupada, you must have been you know what I think Pankaj did in his last life? He was cooking at Jagannath temple. And they cook for thousands of people every day.
Yes, they have wonderful Jagannath deities.
Justi. He couldn't stop his service from his last life.
Yes.
Even though he's not in India.
Very sincere. And both husband and wife are very sincere. His name is Bankim Sarkar Prabhu and Sharmila Sarkar Mataji. Yes, please.
Oh, very
keep
nice.
us in
Very nice.
Blessings.
Wow.
One question, Mataji, I have technical. It's easy to develop the attraction towards prasadam, as you mentioned, the rasas of prasadam. But there are rasas of chanting and hearing and reading Bhagavatam as well. For a fallen soul like me, samosa and gulab jamun, rasmalai, it's easy to develop rasa for that, but not for the verses of Bhagavatam and not for the holy name. So how can we develop rasa or how can we relish that rasa of Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita and chanting?
Well, the first thing, prayer is very important. You pray before you chant, pray after you chant, pray before you read, pray after you read, pray during your read, while you read. Pray for something relevant to your life that you will read. And for prasadam, that's and for chanting, pray for attentive chanting.
Thank you so much. It's very powerful. Please, you also pray for all of us, because prayers of senior Vaishnavas like you will certainly help us to develop that taste. So, any other questions anyone has before we pause? Please raise your hand or unmute yourself and ask. Anyone has any questions or comments on this topic or otherwise? Yes, Prabhuji, please. Then Natasha Mataji can go
So
next.
we will keep in mind for the Clearwater Beach Rath Yatra to having cooked prasadam for everybody then. Okay, it's coming up probably in September. So let's see.
Yes, absolutely, Prabhuji. Absolutely.
Okay, Haribol.
Thank you. Yes, Mataji, please, you can ask.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, Danvat Pranam. Thank you so much for such a nice discussion about Prasadam today. So you were talking about, you gave a couple of pastimes of Prabhupada about healthy food versus, very rich, sumptuous foods. So, we are Kanishtas and neophytes and not very advanced spiritual consciousness. So I do, just like the other devotees you mentioned in the stories, I do worry about the health aspect. So sometimes I make just very simple, foods that are not very rich. So that may not be very appealing to Krishna, but that is keeping our own body, material body in mind. It is good for our body. How should I change this? And
No, you do what you need to do. And the main thing is to offer it with devotion, because Krishna accepts your feeling. It's not, Sudama gave him some chipped rice, which wasn't even offerable, but he took the feeling. Krishna took the feeling of Sudama. And Prabhupada did also comment on sumptuous. He said simple but sumptuous. So that you can do simple but sumptuous. It can be simple, but it should taste good. It shouldn't taste like medicine or something, It shouldn't be an austerity to eat it.
Yes, Mataji, the only difference is Sudama Vipra could not get anything other than chipped rice. Now we are able to make and give much, much more, but we are keeping our body in mind instead of Krishna's interests. So is that...
Well, Prabhupada did say if you're Rupa Goswami, you can take anything, but if you're a neophyte, then you have to think about what is for your body. Yeah. What's good for your devotional service. Yeah.
Thank you, Mataji.
So we have to take those comments.
Or is it okay, Mataji, to cook and offer to Krishna and then not eat oneself and distribute like the samosa? Okay, we'll not take oneself everyday samosa, but we can distribute to our friends, colleagues, neighbors, etc.
Some people do that. Some devotees do that. Yeah. That's the real
Prabhu does
austerity.
that for sure. He doesn't take, they don't take, but I've seen they will take just simple rice dal, but for others, they'll make like 10 things. This is really amazing.
Yeah, that's very amazing. Yeah.
Okay, I think one more question by Vipul Prabhu. Please go ahead.
Krishna Mataji, Danvat Pranam. So Mataji, sometimes in the work situation comes like that no time to eat, just grabbing an apple or something on the way, Krishna, and take it just in 1 second. So how helpful it is, or there is no actually devotion at that point, no concentration, just Krishna and bite it. So getting some benefit of that, or just making my hunger.
So if you're not offering it, if you're not thinking of Krishna before you eat, then there's no benefit. But if you're thinking of Krishna before you eat, if you can, just say, like my son used to say, Krishna, please eat. And then that was his offering. And I said, and he wouldn't even put it in front of the deity. I said, Govinda, you have to put it in front of the deity. He said, Krishna's everywhere. So, what can you say? So yeah, sometimes those things happen, and it's good to be regretful, or you can also plan for the future. Offer your fruit before you take it out or whatever, and try to think in the morning, okay, what am I going to eat today? But sometimes it's not possible, I know. Or you just go to the store, you're hungry, you have to eat, and you have to go to work. And so try to make a simple offering in your mind before you eat.
Thank you so much. I think we have one more question. So dear Prabhu, please you can ask the question.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Dandat Pranam to Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Mataji. It was very relishing to, you explained all the questions and examples and all. So one more question related to that, Mataji. I mean, now I'm not traveling, but I used to travel a lot. So we used to go to the restaurants and all, but of course I used to order salad or something simple, because they know that I'm vegetarian and no onion, no garlic, and all. So is that okay, Mataji, or we should try to avoid?
Yeah, you have to when you travel. When you travel, then you have to do what you need to do to maintain your body. And you try to offer it. You can even Krishna, if you can accept this is what I have, and this is what I have to eat. So, or you can just say, thank you, Krishna. Thank you, Krishna, for giving me this to eat.
Yeah. Thank you, Mataji.
Traveling is safe. Yeah.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Any other questions anyone has? Okay, so we will pause here and express our deepest gratitude to Her Grace Narayani Mataji for sharing such wonderful Krishna Katha and Prasadam Kathas and Prabhupada Kathas and Bhagavad Katha and Bhagavad Gita Katha and Nectar of Instruction Katha. This is so amazing to hear from such self-realized souls. Not just sharing the examples from scriptures, but examples from practical lives and current scenarios, and how we can apply these practically in our day-to-day lives as well. So thank you so much. We'll chant 3 times loudly. If you could turn on your audios and microphone and videos as well, to express deepest gratitude to Her Grace Narayani Mataji by 3 times loudly chanting
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol. Hari Bol. Hari Bol. Hari Bol.
Narayani Mataji ki jai.
Jai Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
Mahaprasadam ki jai.
Jai.
Thank you so
Vilas
much.
Prabhu ki jai.
Mataji. Please continue to bless us by your association and words. We're so grateful to you. Thank you so much, Mataji.
Okay, we'll see how it goes once I travel. Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.